Yes, folks, it is time for our number 10 most biggest story of the year 2024. Let's see what it is. It is
completely out of touch and insult the intelligence of the American people.
Luigi Nicholas Mangione has been identified as the suspect in the Manhattan killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The 26-year-old was spotted at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania just days later. Mangione was born and raised in Maryland, where he was valedictorian of his prep school. He earned undergraduate and graduate degrees in computer science from the University of Pennsylvania. Mangione apparently had severe back pain from childhood that interfered with many aspects of his life. Police say when Mangione was arrested, he had a gun on him that investigators believed was used in last Wednesday's attack, as well as writings expressing anger at corporate America. Manhattan prosecutors have charged him with 5 counts, including murder, criminal possession of a weapon, and criminal possession of a forged instrument. He's currently being held without bail in Pennsylvania.
Yep. We've already had probably about a week to process this, and already this story has become really a game changer in the discussion about healthcare in America, about the discussion about wealth and CEO pay, and the morality of a lot of the work that these CEOs do. I'm of course talking about the assassination of the CEO of the insurance company United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, allegedly at the hands of this young man, Luigi Mangione. Now, this only happened like 2 weeks ago. This is a very recent story, but it has had a huge effect on the discourse surrounding healthcare in this country. There are so many people who've come out with stories about how their family members were denied healthcare coverage, that even though they had paid their whole lives, they had paid for insurance their entire lives, but still were denied life-saving medical procedures. And when we look into a lot of the work that Brian Thompson was doing, we see that they were actually designing an AI program that would deny even more people, that was designed to deny even more people life-saving health care. And it sparked this conversation online where some people look at Luigi Mangione as a psychotic assassin who is, a sort of a crazed lone gunman who is a despicable individual for murdering a man who has children and a wife. And then you have other people who say that Luigi Mangione is a hero because he killed somebody who was indirectly causing the death of thousands of people. Somebody needed to send a message that the type of racket that the insurance companies have been inflicting on the American people all this time just isn't going to fly anymore. There was just a shock poll that came out this week that found that 41% of people under the age of 30 in America think that what Luigi Mangione did, allegedly did, because he hasn't been convicted. Let me just say that. He's pleading not guilty, so we can't say that he absolutely did it. But 41% of people under 30 believe that what Luigi Mangione did was justified. And it's like, wow. Wow, that is absolutely something. Chris Rock, the comedian, hosted Saturday Night Live, I think it was last week, or either the week before last or last week. And when he talked about the killing, he said, well, you know, sometimes drug dealers get shot. And that is sort of the attitude that a lot of people have about it. And, you know, I think last week I shared my own experiences with the medical system, how my life was ruined in my 20s just by getting sick. My life was absolutely ruined because we live in a country that does not have universal health care. And, you know, if I lived in Canada, that wouldn't have happened. I got into massive medical and credit card debt at the same time because of going to the hospital. And I went in debt. And there's lots of people who had it a lot worse than me, who got cancer or got some sort of, or somebody in their family got cancer or some sort of serious illness, and it cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they ended up having to file bankruptcy. Medical bankruptcies are only a thing really in the United States. Of all the wealthy countries in the world, there is no such thing as medical bankruptcy, because they have universal health coverage. And, you know, I'm insured now, but I just, a few weeks ago, found out that there was a dental procedure that was not covered by my medical insurance. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, what's the point of having insurance? You know, and why are your eyes and teeth not a part of your body? You know, these are the things that you see because the health insurance companies have so much power to buy off our politicians and to maintain the laws the way that they are, and to create these laws that destroy the lives of tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of Americans. So this is a very, very, very serious case. And I think in the year 2025, you guys are going to see that this might be one of the most politically significant cases that we've seen in many, many decades here in America. So number 10, once again, the assassination of United Healthcare Insurance Company CEO Brian Thompson, allegedly at the hands of Luigi Mangione, who has become a folk hero in some circles, is our number 10 most important story of the year. Let's look at number 9. I think number 9 might surprise some people. What is number 9?
Caitlin Clark makes pulling up from the midcourt logo look easy, routinely hitting shots most players would consider a heave. The Iowa Star's deep range has expanded the scope of possibilities for up-and-coming women basketball players, much the way NBA star Stephen Curry changed the men's game more than a decade ago.
Every building she goes into is a different energy. Like, it's great for her, great for women's basketball.
Clark's ability to shoot three-pointers from midcourt logos at arenas across the country has changed the sport and the perception of it.
You know, they always say it's not as fun to watch. Like, Caitlin Clark is fun to watch, and I think she's inspiring a lot of young kids coming, my age, older, younger, that you can have that confidence and, do it just as well as any guy could. So
the 6-foot senior from West Des Moines became Division I's all-time leading scorer this season, a first-team All-American, and has filled up the record book during one of the best careers in women's college basketball history.
She's going to be a generational leader for years to come, not just in the game of basketball, but also off the court.
A reason why so many young women want to be like her.
Yes, I don't think anybody could have seen this coming. The rise of Caitlin Clark and the WNBA and just women's sports in general. I'm old enough to remember, say, the late 80s, early 90s when women's sports was considered a joke by most people. I remember when the WNBA came around, and at first there was a lot of enthusiasm, but pretty quickly the WNBA became a joke as well, and has been subject to many, many punchlines over the last 30 years or so of its existence. And just in really one season, this one white girl from Iowa has come along, and it's mostly her, but it's not just her. I would say Angel Reese coming along as well. I would say 75% Caitlin, 25% Angel Reese coming along has changed the fortunes of the WNBA. I think that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese coming into the league is probably the best thing at the same time, no doubt, is the best thing that's ever happened to that league. Caitlin Clark is, and this is the thing that sort of makes her a generational figure. Bill Simmons from ESPN talked about this not too long ago. Caitlin Clark is more famous than any American male basketball player under the age of 30 currently. Just think about that. Think about a female athlete playing a sport that has historically been considered a joke in our society, in our culture, who is more respected, more beloved, more popular than the men doing the same exact thing. That has never happened. That has never happened. Really, the only time you've seen female athletes get to this level are in sports where usually men are not really valued, like in gymnastics. You know, Simone Biles, who won her another few gold medals at the Olympics this year and has gone, sort of cemented her place as the greatest gymnast of all time. You know, she's far more famous than the most famous male gymnast, who I couldn't even tell you. People are willing to watch women do gymnastics. They have not shown that they are willing to watch women play basketball, or usually any other sport that they can watch where men do it at the highest level possible. That's just what it is. And now we're in a situation where this one young woman has brought an entire league with her on her back. She's selling out arenas all over the country. These WNBA teams had been downsizing for years now. Some of them playing in low capacity or middle capacity arenas, having to rent the NBA arenas to fit the Caitlin Clark fans. It has been revolutionary. It's completely changed the history, the course of history of the WNBA. And let me just say this right now, okay? There's a lot of talk about the slump that the men's NBA is in. The men's NBA is unwatchable at this point in a lot of ways. It is hard to watch. The players don't have the passion. The players are load managing, meaning they don't play every game. They sit out games strategically to rest up so that they could be, you know, healthier for the playoffs or for important games. That's not how it used to be. Michael Jordan played 82 games, all 82 games, 10 times in his career. Guys used to take pride in playing every game as hard as they possibly could. Now guys load manage. There's been a lot of discussion about guys shooting too many threes. The Bulls and Celtics last night just shot 108 three-pointers together, combined, which is a comical level of threes being shot. The Bulls don't even have a great three-point shooter on their team. And so the guys are just shooting these three-pointers over and over and over again, and guys aren't playing defense. You're not allowed to play physical defense like people played in the 80s and 90s, and people are tuning out. And there's been a lot of discourse about why fans are tuning out. The players, there's a perception that the players have too much power and that the players are loafing and all this other stuff. I've always defended the men's NBA players. I've always defended them for many years. I always thought a lot of the criticism of men's NBA players because most of them were black. And I always thought they were underpaid and should have deserved even more money than they got because they were making these leagues billions. But this generation of stars is really blowing it. They really are. They're blowing it. They don't play at the All-Star game. They don't want to play the All-Star game. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. And fans are tuning out. They are tuning in to the WNBA. I've been telling people for a while, the WNBA is a more physical style of ball than the men's game is. I'm more excited for the first time about the women's NBA than I am about the men's NBA. Pretty soon we're going to have to call the NBA the MNBA. Because the WNBA will become the default NBA. And Caitlin Clark is a huge part of that. I think a big part of the reason that she is an important figure and the rise of Caitlin Clark has been so important is because it has fallen into the culture war trap that everything else in America does, meaning race and gender. Because she is white, because she's playing in a majority black league, because so many people who follow her have been disrespectful to a lot of the black players in the league, and a lot of the black women feel marginalized, disrespected. And let me just say this, to her credit, Caitlin Clark has never done anything other than be totally gracious. She just recently talked about how black women built the WNBA, and we have to find ways to uplift and showcase the talented black women in the league. Now, that's what she's supposed to say. That's what she's supposed to say, obviously. But the fact is, the public wants to see her. And you can't force people to care about A'ja Wilson, who is the best women's basketball player in the world currently. A'ja Wilson, this past season, had one of the greatest seasons in the history of basketball. Men's or women's basketball. Just one of the greatest seasons ever, period. An insane level of productivity, but more people cared about Caitlin Clark. You know, her style of ball is part of it. She's extremely fun to watch, but obviously her race is part of it. And other than Donald Trump, I don't think there's been a figure whose name was on the lips of more people in 2024 than Caitlin Clark. Even though she's just an athlete, but still, the fact that her rise brought us back to this culture war, right wing, left wing, black, white place where we always seem to end up in America. I think it's suitable that she would be the athlete of the year 2024. And so our number 9 biggest story of 2024 is the rise of Caitlin Clark and the WNBA. What's number 8?
As I have made clear on our 6 previous meetings and throughout Putin's brutal aggression and war against Ukraine, my support for the people of Ukraine is unwavering. I've been proud to stand with Ukraine. I will continue to stand with Ukraine, and I will work to ensure Ukraine prevails in this war. If Putin is allowed to win, they will become emboldened. And history reminds us, and history is so clear in reminding us, the United States cannot and should not isolate ourselves from the rest of the world. Isolation is not insulation. So then, the United States supports Ukraine not out of charity, but because it is in our strategic interest. However, in candor, I share with you, Mr. President, there are some in my country who would instead force Ukraine to give up large parts of its sovereign territory.
Yep, that is our current Vice President, Mrs. Kamala Harris, talking about Ukraine. And yeah, the Russia-Ukraine war is still going on. There may be other things going on like this election and Palestine and Israel and now Syria and Iran and all these things, but still, maybe it is possible that the war in Ukraine is the war that we will look back in history at and say this was the beginning of World War III. And no, I'm not joking. Russia has more nuclear weapons than every other country on the planet, including the United States. Vladimir Putin warned the United States and NATO for 20 years that, look, if you guys keep encroaching on Russian territory, we will invade Ukraine and Georgia to prevent you guys from completely encircling us. In 2022, he did it. That was obviously one of the biggest stories, if not the biggest story of the year 2022. 2023, we saw that the war broaden across more of Ukraine, and now we're in a situation where, with Donald Trump headed back to the White House, Ukraine has lost an immense amount of territory. They have lost so many soldiers, estimated at close to 1 million people in some places, that they are actually picking up 50-year-olds off the street and scripting them and forcing them to the front lines to serve. No joke. All the young men have either died or fled Ukraine. And so now you have the average soldier who's fighting for Ukraine right now is in his mid-40s. Now, Russia's lost a lot of people too, but they have a hell of a lot more people to lose. And Russia is fighting not just Ukraine, but all of NATO. Not technically, but really, they're fighting us. They're fighting Britain and France and Germany and all those other people as well. And Ukraine has been destroyed by this, completely destroyed. Ukraine's economy has crashed. Their political system is basically non-existent. Zelensky's term was up a long time ago. He shouldn't even be in power right now. He's banned opposing parties. They've banned any media that is not sympathetic to the current Zelensky regime. And yet they say that the reason that we're helping them fight this war is to preserve democracy. Which is, again, one of those things that our government tends to lie. And we've sent hundreds of billions of dollars to this country, all the while creeping closer and closer and closer and closer to World War III. So obviously this is a developing story that will continue to probably ensnare us into this conflict for the next, who knows? Hopefully with Trump getting in, Trump, who is a lot less hawkish on Russia, will bring this conflict to an end and stop the American public's money from going to these defense contractors and to a corrupt Zelensky regime. All right, folks, it's the end of the year, 2024. When we come back, we are going to have number 7 through 5 of the most important news stories. We'll be right back after these.